This one material is absolutely killing all of the cars today. It's not a material that's really new, but it's everywhere, guys. Places where it really shouldn't be used. And I am talking, of course, about plastic. Obviously, for a large part of history, cars have mostly been metal, right? Especially at inception, metal was a predominant material. And then slowly but surely, especially in the late 90s to where we are today, plastic started to play a very large role in cars. Plastic does have its place, right? My GR Yaris, for example, my roof is carbon fiber reinforced polymer, which is a type of plastic. Our bumpers are plastic, which is a net positive. There's crumple zones, there's safety benefits to that. Our interiors are plastic and they hold up well, nice and long time if they're done right. But the problem I have with plastic and where it really does start to fall short is when you're using it for engine components. And guys, the Germans, I believe, are the first manufacturers who really started using plastic as a material in their engines. And a huge part of the reason is to meet efficiency standards, and a huge part of the reason is actually cost cutting. I want to use an example from Porsche 991. In that generation, Porsche started utilizing plastic oil pans. An oil pan is basically where your oil rests. It's at the bottom of your engine before the oil pump picks it up and then circulates it around the engine so it could provide lubrication and cooling. The oil pan, in my view, is, and I would say in anyone's view, a very critical part of your engine. Porsche, however, even having a boxer motor that sits really low to the ground, decides that the pan should be made out of plastic. The reason Porsche highlights is that plastic is an easier to use material in terms of manufacturing. When you're using metal, if you use a pan made out of metal, you'll have to manufacture a bunch of components and then affix them to the metal pan. Obviously, you'll have your oil pickup, your oil pump need to be made separately. When you make that pan out of plastic, do the right injection process and make it all one piece. Integrate everything. And Porsche said that reduces the components from 14 separate components down to 8. Now you might be thinking that's just 6 components Porsche is saving. Why do that? Well, if you apply that logic to the entirety of the car, well, you end up saving a lot of costs, don't you? 6 components here, 3 somewhere else, 3 somewhere else. Before you know it, you've saved on hundreds of components. The other reasoning that Porsche flags, when you make something out of metal, obviously you have to do machining. When you have engine components, you can't leave any specks because they will circulate through the engine and they'll destroy your engine components, right? Your rod bearings, a lot of the parts of your engine are sensitive. So once you make those components out of metal, you've got to make sure that all the dust, all the little fine particulate material is moved out. When you're making stuff out of plastic, that problem does not exist. Machining that metal, molding it, and having those parts is a very energy intensive process, which is where the environmental benefits come as well. So Porsche, in their wisdom, obviously have made the oil pan out of plastic, but it's not just Porsche, right? It's many other manufacturers. I was looking at the Porsche Dakar as well, which is meant to be an off-road style Porsche, right? For the Dakar rally type deal. Even the oil pan there is made out of plastic. Now, these aren't your water bottle plastics or anything of that nature. These are proper solid materials and they're tested with different oils, different temperatures. Plastic is plastic, guys. And I don't want to just blame Porsche because I think a lot of manufacturers have been doing this for a long time now. Water pumps are made out of plastic and that's why they keep failing. Housings are made out of plastic. BMW's B58, B48, and in fact, most of their B series engines have their entire oil filter housings made out of plastic. I mean, it is truly getting ridiculous. If you're using plastic in your interiors and exterior bits, that makes sense. But when you start using it in critical engine components, things that are meant to keep your engine cool and safe, it just makes no sense. Plastics utilized in the air intake region, intake manifold, valve cover, that sort of stuff makes sense to a degree. But oil pans, water pumps, oil pumps, all of this stuff that's happening today, guys, it's just not a positive thing to see. That's why I think for me, cars are on a downward spiral. They very much reflect the state of humanity and how we are as people, right? Life is temporary. And for a long time, I think people and society focused on things that would outlast us, right? You had people building the pyramids, people built houses, buildings, and all these different items. They were overbuilt. No one was doing calculations. Now, everything today is a calculation and everything has a design life and everything has a cost component. Things simply are not designed as well as they were back then. And it's all a deliberate choice that a lot of people are making, and I would say it's the case for pretty much everything out there. Cars, just like everything else, they're becoming reusable, recyclable. Overall recyclability is good, but I feel as if these initiatives are short-term gain for long-term pain. Yes, you might have a lot of components made out of plastic, and that's good. In the short term, you save energy, you have good metrics, but in the long term, cars are breaking down more, you have more trips to the mechanic. People are being hurt more by their cost, out of pocket, and then they're having to junk these cars. I'm not entirely sure it's a good thing. Thanks for watching. I'll catch catch you next time.